This morning, we're blessed to have Will Thomson. He's president of Bullseye Recruiting. He's also a board member of Job Seekers Network. He's a native Austinite, and he's got two kids that he's managing at home along with this. And so Will's going to join us today to talk about informational interviewing and some of the insight he has on the hiring going on right now. So Will, thanks for joining us.
Greg, thanks for having me, and welcome everybody. Um, so, we're going to talk a little bit about video interviewing today. Craig, I love that verse from Philippians. I keep going back to it during these times of tribulation where, we are anxious. We don't know what tomorrow brings from one day to the next. I mean, it could be, um, it, it seems like what's next or what ball's going to drop every single day. We don't know. The job market is uncertain as it's ever been. This does not feel like 2008. It feels different than that. So there's a lot of unprecedented things that are happening in the world. We're all adjusting to the new normal. And we're all trying to be kind to one another as we go through this change in the economic climate. It just seems like, in January, everything was just kind of trucking along and the world kind of stopped or was put on pause, recently. And we just don't know one day to the next what it's going to look like. And truthfully, as a recruiter, I don't know what that looks like as well. I mean, I don't know, when companies are going to begin hiring again. It seems like every day, President Trump just told us last night that we're going to social distance through the end of April rather than Easter. So that target continues to change, and we just want to pray for one another and make sure that we continue to do what we can do, but remember that we are not the ones in control. God's the one that's in control. So as we go through this, video interviewing, I hopefully we'll give you a few nuggets that you feel will be helpful to you. Just a few basics. I mean, I for one, have never done so many Zoom calls in the past 2 weeks. That it's kind of the new normal. So the things that I would suggest to you is that obviously you are not going to be going into an office and interviewing. This is with the city shut down and the quarantine happening. Everything's going to be done over video. So hiring is happening still over video. So things that basics you need to think about are um, you know, my internet sometimes is kind of spotty. So make sure that if you are deep in the job search, that you go and get with Spectrum or AT&T, and make sure that it works effectively, because this is our tool to communicate for the near future. I mean, next month, 2 months, 3 months, who knows how long this is going to last. Make sure you understand how Zoom works. Craig asked me before we got on this call, he said, are you familiar with Zoom? And I said, well, I wasn't as familiar, and now I'm becoming more and more familiar every day. Just kind of play around with the tool itself, because this is probably the primary tool that people are going to be using. The one thing that I'll say during this time is there's going to be some grace on the employer's side. So, if you do have children, pets barking, this is going to happen. I mean, and it's funny watching Good Morning America or the news. They're all social distancing, and we all have these things. I mean, I have 2 children, as Craig mentioned. So if you do have these things, just make sure when you have a video interview, maybe your wife or your spouse, or have them outside while you're interviewing. And if you can't do it, you can't do it. But if you have some help with the pets, the dog, the cat, or whatever, that would be helpful as well. Just remember that Um, yeah, sometimes the video and the audio doesn't work. Just before we jumped on this call, we had 15 minutes of just making sure the connectivity worked. If yours isn't working, you can borrow someone else's. I know Amazon's kind of running behind, but headsets are pretty important when you're doing these things, because if you're speaking into a computer, sometimes it doesn't work as effectively. Um, with Zoom, there's a pretty cool tool where you can actually change your background where you don't see your messy desk or your messy life. You can have a beach background, or you can add a background. That's something I suggest. If not, just clean your desk to make sure it looks as nice as it possibly can, and your office looks good when you're video interviewing. I will say again, there's going to be some grace here. If you can't do anything with the dog or our children, I mean, this is our life, guys. I mean, this is what's happening. So I think that that's what's gonna just have to happen. When you do a video interview, just treat it like any normal interview that you would have, with a face-to-face. Make sure you do some due diligence and really understand their product, their value. Make sure that you act excited, just like a face-to-face. This is, companies are still hiring, so you want to make sure that you get your best feet forward. So how's that look? Um, Walk through your resume, spend some time, on your resume. Make sure that it looks as best as they possibly can. So when you do go through your resume, you're able to identify gaps, how you're going to do it, just like what Job Seekers Network teaches you. One thing that I hear commonly with employers is that they have not done enough research, and they can't tell you what they do. And I know that most people in this group, that's not going to be the case, but just make sure that you're able to articulate that. One thing I always tell people is prepare at least 3 questions. That will force you to do more research than you possibly than you need to do. And then when you do that, you're able to have something to talk about, and they'll feel like you're engaged. Um, you know, with social media, you can find out as much as you possibly can. Just make sure you work with the recruiters, and find out who's going to be on the call. Be able to talk to them. The great thing about video interviewing is you could have a notepad in front of you and have notes of the people that you're going to be interviewing with, and talk about what school they went to or something in common who you may know, and that helps when you're in the interview process. So just treat any video interview as it is a face-to-face, and be as prepared as you possibly can. So when I'm poking fun at this a little bit, obviously, but I'm serious. How do you dress? Remember that everybody interviewing you is in the exact same situation that you're in. That these guys are, with kids in the background. They have dogs too, and they probably are not in a suit and tie. Guaranteed, they're probably in a t-shirt. They probably just got back from doing lawn work themselves. So when you but be dress well. I mean, don't put a hat on, make sure you don't have any food in your teeth, or it was funny that the other day we were having a call with Craig, and I had my dog in the background, and he's like, "Oh, Will, and don't show your dog in the background too." I mean, we all make mistakes, right? So just wear, a golf shirt, a khakis, something like that. And I think, and for women, just dress, dress like you would, if you were um, to go on an interview, but don't go overboard. Put on makeup, make yourself look presentable. But maybe a suit is not appropriate at this specific point in time. This is unprecedented. This this is definitely not something like the advice I would probably give you in January. But I'm telling you, we're all in this together, and we just need to look presentable, and people are going to have grace. So when you're finished with your interview, the biggest problem that I see is I said, well, how did your interview go? And they're like, well, it went good, I think. You never know. Well, you should know. I mean, ask about what the next step is in the process, you know, um, and then things to think about is if they do hire you in these times, what does that look like? And I'll tell you, I've talked to a lot of HR leaders over the past couple of weeks, and onboarding is completely different. I mean, if you think about it, we used to go into an office, you fill out your paperwork. This is all over the computer now, right? So virtual onboarding is a piece of this. And if you don't have all the skills, then it's going to be really hard to train you. So I would be very specific on your search and try to find, a job that matches your skills. This is not a time to do a complete career change. In fact, I would say that this is a time where this may be, you take a band-aid job, or there's going to be a lot of underemployment at this point in time, unfortunately. So this is a pause, guys. This is not a forever moment. This is going to be, it could be 2 months, 4 months, it could be 6 months, but this thing will end. The economy will rebound. So remember that when you're interviewing. I always ask people at the end, so on how did I interview? And I think even in a video interview, that's something you need to ask. It's just, how did I do? Was it okay, or was it, how do I compare to other people? And they'll tell you. I mean, it's like, well, I wish you had this skill because that's what I was really looking for, and then address it. And then send them a follow-up email and talk about that specifically, so you can go from there. So let's talk about the economy. When companies are going to hire. Like I said in the beginning of this call, it is a very fluid situation. I mean, this changes from day to day. I mean, the what's next in this world is just, it's unbelievable. I mean, seeing what's happening in New York and what's happening in um, New Orleans, and just it could be a month, it could be weeks. We just don't know. But I would expect delays. This is not going to be, if someone doesn't get right back to you, the new normal is, when they're able to get back with you. It's because they have kids too, and they're at home too. You may get a late response. That you know there are companies, from what I'm seeing, that are laying off at an alarming rate at this point in time. But don't let that discourage you, because there are a lot of companies that are still hiring, and there are a lot of companies, and Madeline will show you a list in a little bit of companies that are hiring. I'll give you some just suggestions of companies that are hiring as well. But if I were to give you any suggestion right now, just breathe. Breathe. Spend some time with the family. Go for a walk. I know that's easier said than done when you have a mortgage to pay and things like that. But like I said, this is the time where we're being underemployed maybe makes sense. Walmart is still hiring. Amazon's hiring. I mean, you can only think about all these places listed on this. And I mean, you may not think, hey, I want to go work at Albertsons, but I mean, if you, this may be the opportunity at this point in time where you do that. So that's just a few ideas there. So, with that, I'll kind of um, leave it for a little Q&A about, see if you have any questions. I can answer them the best I possibly can, but I'd be happy to address any questions or concerns. Just the last thing I would say is just become prepared as you possibly can. We're gonna get through this as a country and as a nation. It's gonna be okay. Try not to get too anxious. Enjoy the little things in life, and we're all gonna be okay as a nation.